Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in and coming by. Be sure to go to our YouTube at youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that subscribe button for the bell notification so you get all the things we're doing with the podcast and the show. And of course, all the tech reviews and everything we do as well. Be sure to go to iTunes, Google Play, refer to your family, friends, neighbors, dogs, cats. Get everybody listening to the Chris Voss Show Podcast so they can subscribe there as well. And guess what? It's always free for a limited time. Anyway, we've got some wonderful guests that have come by the show. As always, we have the best guests. Let's see who we have today. It is Kathleen Hessert. And Kathleen Hessert is the CEO of WeRGenZ.com. And she has spent over 3 decades helping sports brands from media giants, ESPN, Fox Sports, to world-renowned celebrities like P. Diddy, NFL's Peyton Manning, and Olympians to build their reputations and fan bases. Kathleen migrated to what's next, Generation Z. Of course, that's the future of the new generation that's coming out. And since she was so used to working with young athletes, she turned to teens to build the WeRGenZ program website from the grassroots up. Today, she helps brands understand the future through today's youth and amplifying voices of this new generation. She's a much sought-after public speaker and consultant, wowing audiences with insights derived from her original research and thousands of members of the WeRGenZ teen think tank. Along with that, she has one of her team think tank members, Keaton Reinhardt, who joins with us today. So we're going to get a chance to interview them both and talk about what the excitement is behind this future generation. Welcome to the show, Keaton and Kathleen.
Hi.
Great to have you guys here. And of course, you know, it's the future we're talking about. So let's get into that. Kathleen, give us an idea of what plugs people can take and look you guys up on the webcast as we go through it.
Sure. We'll take a look at WeRGenZ.com, which is our website, and on Twitter, Facebook, and especially Instagram. We also have a Spotify account, and it's all We Are, the letter R, Gen Z.
Sounds good. And welcome to the show as well. I know you work with Kathleen in doing numerous different things and stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself, some plugs of where people can find you on the internet.
Hey, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, let's see. You can find me at Keaton RT on Instagram. That's KEATON RT. I do a lot of photo and video for the company WeRGenZ. And
of course, you give them advice on you know what the Gen Z is all about, what you guys are thinking, what you guys are doing, what you guys are liking, and what future you guys want to build, right? Yeah,
of course. They get a lot of our input and stuff from surveys and meetings that we have, just kind of getting our idea of what kind of things we like and dislike.
So Kathleen, this is pretty interesting what you guys have set up. Give us a broader missions of what you guys are trying to accomplish here.
Sure. Well, a lot of brands are still focused on millennials. And in fact, they don't even know there is a Gen Z. And so what we've realized is there's this void, this huge void of understanding about the next generation, which is really critical. So Gen Z is born between 2000 and 1996 and 2010. And so think, 10-year-olds to 22-year-olds within this generation. So they're definitely not millennials. They're very different than millennials. And brands have got to start thinking the next generation. And because they're so different, one of the biggest things that they need to understand is, how do they engage with them? Who are they? Where are they? They love authenticity. In fact, it's a credo of theirs. So if brands aren't ready to be authentic with them, they walk away. And that's a big walk away, because Keaton and his cohorts spend $44 billion a year today in the United States, and they influence $600 billion a year. That's a big walk away.
How much of those billions are yours, Keaton? Damn, you're doing good. Wow.
Not quite a billion yet. No, maybe one day.
Notice yet. He said yet.
He's got a piece of the pie. He's got a piece.
Yeah, it's small, but it's there.
So with Gen Z, you guys have the website, and you guys are compiling this think tank, and you're surrounding yourself not only with brilliant people, but you're surrounding yourself with, I think, a lot of these kids, these Gen Z generation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're using
that's
them
how
as a
Keaton
think tank
became a part of it. We started working with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, and it's the 11th largest public school system in the United States. And I went to them, I said, give me 12 of your best kids. And weekly, I want them to tell me what's cool, what's not, what's out, help me understand your generation. And then it evolved into now over 1,000 kids that we do original research with 8 to 10 times a year. And Keaton was one of those kids. We did one on sports and entertainment, and we had a deal with the Carolina Panthers NFL team. And Keaton was one of 24 kids who came to the Panthers and spent a day literally doing a new age focus group to help the Panthers and ultimately the NFL know how to better engage with young people because their fan base was aging out. And Keaton's like, I like more of this. I'm ready to share my opinions. And he joined us.
Now, I know Keaton's on some limited timeline. Why don't we get into him a little bit more and what he does so that we can get him taken care of?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So, Keaton, tell us what you do for WeRGenZ.com.
Well, my talent is photo and video type stuff. So most photo that you'll see, posted by WeRGenZ on their Instagram, and some stuff on their YouTube, I've edited, taken, and stuff like that. So really just trying to help amplify our voices and get the word out about our generation.
And you're currently recruiting, Kathleen, people like Keaton, right?
We are. We started the WeRGenZ think tank in Charlotte, North Carolina, but now we have members in Virginia, in Maryland, in Florida, in Chicago, in Indianapolis. And we're recruiting kids who want to really speak up about their generation and correct the misunderstandings out there about them, who they are, what they care about, their passions, how to get to them. So we are looking for virtual members of our teen think tank that will take our surveys, that will speak up to the media and to podcasters like yourself about the realities of being a teen today.
And this is important to you, Keaton. I think your generation, you guys want to have a voice. You guys want to speak out, I'm sure. Or maybe you don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. What's important to you and your generation, in your mind?
Well, you're actually very right. This is very important to us. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of activism in our generation that has previously not been seen before in other generations. Now we have all kinds of social media platforms on the internet to speak our mind and really let our opinions be heard. Everything from the kids after the Parkland shooting, banding together and wanting to really bring an end to school violence, stuff like that. Something that's really affected us. Even just this year, all kinds of crazy measures have been implemented into our school just to keep us as safe as possible. So just stuff like that that's affecting us, that we want our opinions to be heard about and make change to.
And it's important to you guys, right?
It really is, yes.
Yeah. And you guys are shaped, I grew up, and I think Kathleen was in my generation. We grew up cowering under our desks to hopefully survive a nuclear war from Russia.
I remember that.
And we had these drills that we would go through where they would be like, everyone get in your desks. And I don't know how logically we were going to survive a nuclear bomb, but they're supposed to do it. So we did it. Now looking back on it, I'm like, I don't know if this was really going to work. But they were steel desks back then. Now they're aluminum, so maybe. Yeah, your generation does have some fallout they dealt with. The millennials had some issues that they dealt with the housing boom crisis, the watching their parents go through almost another Great Recession, or what many call the Great Recession. Because it was a pretty dark time, and a lot of people lost their life savings. A lot of their parents went through a very ugly time, lost homes, financial difficulties, jobs, etc. And I don't know, did some of that impact your generation as well?
Well, you see, it did a little bit. Let's see, I was about 8 or 9 when that happened. So it's something that we definitely remember in the back of our minds, but it hasn't really affected us too much. You know, I'd say that our generation is very positive, has a great outlook on life, definitely sees it as being a wonderful thing that we get to go out and have such a great opportunity to be here in such a good time, economy-wise and everything.
One of the things we've found, Chris, is that Gen Z looks forward more than they look back. And that, I think, allows them to be more positive than many generations have been in the past. But in terms of the negativity and the millennial generation and all the things that they were born into, they learn their lessons from them. So we're finding with surveys and with dealing with our teens, it's a matter of they're being more frugal. They save more. They're more realistic about what they're going to do. They don't want that college debt that the millennials before them had. They don't want to have to move back into their parents' home or be in a dead-end job. So as a result, they're being proactive and looking forward. And so in that way, they are very different, and it has affected them, but in a very positive way.
Sounds like I'm going to like Gen Z better than I like millennials.
I sure hope you will.
But no, you guys are, I'm seeing this level of activism from Gen Z that is just amazing. And without getting the politics of it and saying, well, this is good or this is bad, seeing what you guys are doing after the Parkland shooting, seeing the ways you guys are organizing and making events, and you know, you guys certainly aren't being the slacker generation that maybe we saw with the millennials. Where you guys are out there. I mean, I've been watching the Parkland kids. I've been watching. You know, we're seeing this thing now, and we just recently saw this in the Democratic election of someone where a Democratic, I believe it was a Senate House Democrat. I think it was 10 years or 10 terms that he'd won, is now being replaced by someone who's younger, fresher. We saw that in New York, and where you know, I'm not being political, but we saw this thing that they call the blue wave. But there's also this overturning that's going on in that blue wave, where the young is being brought in. You know, the girl in New York, and forgive me, I forget her name. But she's really young. It's her first time in politics. The same with the other gal who just won the recent race. I think it was Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think that's too.
And so we're seeing this churning where the youth is coming into the voting block. And you know, I've been watching the Parkland people, and the big drive that they've been having on whatever you want to believe, right or wrong with them, is they've been getting kids to vote and getting kids registered, and that's their big drive. And it seems, you know, it was really amazing just to watch the Parkland kids. They did the big event when they first came to Washington, and they spoke with such clarity. They didn't speak like a bunch of kids, and I hate to sound prejudiced that way, but you know, I wasn't the greatest kid. Let's put it this way. When I was that age, I couldn't speak that eloquently. And so your generation has a much better understanding. Maybe you guys are much more farly developed because your education levels, from technology, exposure to data, and everything that you guys have at your disposal. Where in my generation, you know, we just had TV with 3 channels and then some black and white channels that we had to watch that had Godzilla on them. So you guys were birthed into wearing iPads and things of that nature. So it's really exciting to see what you guys are doing.
One of the things that I think is important to understand is Gen Z by 2020 is going to be 40% of the U.S. population.
Wow.
And there right now 1 million more Gen Z than there are millennials. And so where they go, we go, quite frankly. And they're much more inclusive. I mean, Keaton and the other members of the WeRGenZ think tank, they don't think about, oh, this person's not like me. They're like, oh, you're creative too? Come on in. You know, let's talk creativity. They feel like they've got a say, and they're ready to step in there and say it. And not just on serious issues, the creativity side, like Keaton is one of our most creative. And so the way they look at creativity is going to be different than the way older people look at creativity and apply it in their lives and everything. It's like a part of the fabric of his life.
And I watched some of Keaton's videos that he'd taken and done, some of his production videos for the place he works. Where's the place you work, Keaton?
I work at Juice Bar here in Charlotte.
And I watched some of the videos that you made. You were displaying or showcasing some of the drinks that they have there at the Juice Bar, and I got to tell you, they really look good, and they made me hungry.
Thank you.
You know what I thought was cool is Keaton offered to do that. So these kids are they're new in the workforce, they're serious consumers, they're leaders, but Keaton said, I've got this talent. You could really use it, brand, X, Y, and Z, and let me bring it to you. And they learned to appreciate that. Don't you think?
Yeah,
that's really important to you, huh?
Yeah, and we really we have to grow up fast and have an entrepreneurial spirit if we really want to do something good and bring those opinions to other people. We have to reach out to people to really have our voices heard.
We've seen that ingenuity, like I said, in the students, the young people now getting out, getting involved, caring about their future. I think you guys are. It sounds like you guys are aware, of some of the shackles that have been put on the millennials. Of course, student debt. You guys, of course, have that pending down the pike, where you guys have to deal with how you're going to pay for college, things of that nature. It sounds like you guys are spending some time preparing for that, or taking a look at some of the political headwinds that are going to impact that, and trying to make a difference before you get there.
Yeah, we are looking ahead always. And as you were talking about college, I'm looking ahead now. I actually have to go. I've got a meeting with my college counselor right now. But thank you very much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Good luck. Thank you for being on the show, Keaton. We'll let you run, and I'll carry on here with Kathleen.
And next time you have to tell me what colleges you're going to apply to, Keaton.
Okay, I will. Sounds good.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Keaton,
have a good day.
On the show.
Of course.
So Kathleen, that's pretty awesome. And you're assembling. How many of these people are you going to have in your think tank for all these folks?
Right now we have over 1,000 in the general teen think tank, which means that we've got over 1,000 real teens to research on any issue. So whether it's the Carolina Panthers that we brought Keaton in to tell them what they needed to do differently to appeal to young fans, or it's the Symphony, or it's another brand like Adobe. Adobe's been a huge supporter of ours, embracing Gen Z. And the whole idea is to share with them real teens' thoughts and feelings and passions about a particular, for Adobe's situation, it could be around their software. It could be around creativity and innovation. For the Panthers, it's like, what can the NFL do to, besides lower the ticket prices, which is always a plus, what can you do to get us to become an advocate? Because they now have all these options. And so these 1,000+ kids are everyday teens that we have we're able to research and share the data with any and all clients and the general public, which we do on our WeRGenZ Instagram account, our Facebook account, and Twitter account, etc. Beyond that, we have our WeRGenZ advisory board, and they're the superstars. They're authors, and they're prodigies in all kinds of different areas. And so we meet with them once every month about what's important from their perspective in terms of building a portrait of this generation that's more authentic and relative to what's happening out there. And then the third group that we have is our What's Hot, What's Not panel. And we've got 12 interns from around the country that meet every 2 weeks. And they literally tell us what's in and what's out in terms of today's generation. So we've got multiple levels of direct insight from real teens that's relevant to the marketplace.
Awesome. And so marketers can come to you, companies, brands can come to you and say, hey, we want to understand Gen Z. How can we do this? You guys have this compilation of different brand researches. You've got original research results, fast facts. You've got different white papers, I'm sure, that you can take and give to companies to say, hey, this is the future of what not only you have to market to, but what you're going to be employing, correct?
Absolutely. And we can consult with them, do custom research, or consult with them on how to apply these facts within their marketplace. So for instance, if there is, we have a project that we're going to initiate in 2019 around the NBA All-Star Weekend in Charlotte. And we're going to have social media influencers who are Gen Z and analytics looking at what people are talking about. So they're learning the analytics side, they're creating content, they're being influencers around the NBA All-Star team. Well, there are NBA teams that are thinking ahead and want to know, how do we lower the average age of our fan? Where better to go than to WeRGenZ, where we can actually put those kids in front of you, and whether they're a future fan, a casual fan, or an avid fan, tell them, what it's going to take to get them to focus on their particular brand and become an advocate on their behalf. So that, I think, is really, really important. Any brand, every brand needs to understand this generation. They're changing the way we consume information. They're changing the way we spread information. They're changing even the economy, to moving it to a more token economy. If we ask our Gen Z think tank members when the last time they were in a bank, some of them don't even remember physically walking into a bank for years, if at all. They use Venmo. They use other forms of peer-to-peer sharing of funds and so on. They're changing the economy as a result of it. They're into Bitcoin. They're into blockchain. They know what it is, and they're not afraid to deal with it. They're changing, the way everything is happening, the culture itself. They truly have already changed the culture, in part because there's so many of them, but even more so because they're so different, and they're ready, willing, and able to take their differences and charge out there into the world and do what they want. They don't see barriers. They don't, someone's transgen, they don't care. What difference does that make if they can make a good video, or if they're going to write an excellent blog post, or they're going to sell them something, in a retail store, on the mall, or whatever. So their openness and their inclusiveness is amazingly different, and it makes a difference. And I apologize for that phone. I thought they were all off, but
AT&T gives us phones.
We'll make sure this one is from now on.
AT&T gives us phones, and we have a pile of them all around the office. And thanks to AT&T for always supporting us. But
AT&T loves WeRGenZ, I'm sure.
Trying to turn off all these phones, and I probably could be a Gen Z or sometimes with all the YouTube and millennial stuff that I do. But I'm really excited to hear what's going on, and it's really important for these companies, if you're a marketer listening, if you're a brand listening, to understand this generation. I mean, $600 billion they control already. They're spenders. They're really good. I know from my nephew, they're really good at getting their parents to spend money.
Yeah. Think about this. A lot of people ask, Chris, how do you come up with the $600 billion? Well, think about this. What parent is going to buy a car that doesn't fit the soccer gear and all the kids they have to take to school or to soccer practice, or buy technology that they don't know how to use, that the kids are going to teach them how to use, whether it's a smart TV or an Alexa or whatever? They're not even going to buy food that the kids won't eat. They won't bring it into the house. So when you look at how kids now influence the household and the spending, it is absolutely amazing. When I was growing up, it was the kids didn't rule the roost. The parents told us exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, etc. And we followed suit. Like we got under the desk when there was the drill for the possible nuclear attack. Now, these kids, the number one word in their vocabulary is why. They need to understand why from beginning to end. And why is that? It's because they have at their fingertips that cell phone, that smartphone, or that internet, that they can look up anything. the way they learn is different because now it has to be interactive. They don't think they have to depend on traditional sources to learn. Where I had a Encyclopedia Britannica, they've got Google, they've got Instagram, and so they want to and need to know the context. So when they say why, it's not a matter of disrespect. It's a matter of help me understand.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to understand so they can do something with it.
I'm excited for their entrepreneurial things. And this is something brands should look at too, and corporations should look at too, in employing them, because they're probably, I know my nephew has entrepreneurial sort of aspirations. When I ask him what he wants to do, he doesn't say the normal stuff like, well, I want to get a job as a lawyer, or, I don't know, whatever. He's like, I want to be like you, Chris. I want to go work for myself. I want to do YouTube. I want to make videos. I want to make, and a lot of what they seem to be making is intellectual sort of property. When I grew up, went to school, we had to take metal shop, wood shop, and what was the other thing? Leather shop.
And now they take robotics and bioengineering in high school.
Yeah. And so they're learning stuff that's more in their mind, where when I grew up, they taught us more things that we did with our physical labor. And so they have and like you said, they have a huge technical resource where they can go anywhere for their data. So, even if you're a company like CNN or, when you and I grew up, like I said, we had three main channels. I think there was NBC, CBS, and NBC, CBS, and ABC. And that was it. There wasn't even Fox back then. And so you had three channels that you got all your information from, and you had to turn on the TV to get your information. Or maybe open up your newspaper, but usually the most quickest data was from the TV. But it was very kind of controlled and sealed off. There was the lanes were, these are the lanes, that's it. And so it wasn't easy to get extraneous data or extra data maybe that you wanted. You were just spoon fed what the corporations want to tell you. And now they have this ability that they can go search anywhere on the web to find what data they want or information they want. And they can just say, hey, CNN, I'll go find my own stuff.
Well, when you ask them how they learn, they say it's got to be interactive. In fact, I was doing a video interview with a young woman from Florida, and she was a 17-year-old, and she said, well, everything's got to be interactive. You can't just stand in front of us and lecture to us anymore. That we'll tune you right out. Show us, get us involved. She said, my girlfriend learned to play the ukulele by going to YouTube, and she learned everything about how to play the ukulele at a high level by watching YouTube. So why do you think you can just talk to us and think that we're going to absorb information, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a brand, etc.? And they've got this really, really strong BS, factor. They can
smell it.
They can smell it a mile away. So if you're not authentic, you can forget it, because they ghost you in a minute. The other thing that's really important is that by 2030, the estimate is that 85% of the jobs don't even exist today. So today's jobs will not be around. So they've got to prepare themselves for a future with very, very different job possibilities. And in a survey that we did last year, a WeRGenZ survey of about 1,000 kids, I believe it was, they said close to 40% said that they either are now entrepreneurial, have a business of their own, or they fully expect that they will be their own boss in the future. So they are much more entrepreneurial in the way they look at everything and forming opinions and acting on those. They're not shy about acting on them in any way, shape, or form. Even those kids who can't vote now are looking at who the people are who are running, who want to lead them. And they're saying, if you ignore us in 4 years when we can vote and you're running again, we'll vote you right out. And then they're not shy about saying it. So, if a brand is going to create something that's geared to Gen Z, they've got to create a different kind of product. They've got to deliver it and market it in a different way. And they've if they're aligned with a social cause, that's a plus, because Gen Z looks at that. They want to support companies and products that do something beyond just make money. And so that's a plus. They don't care about prestige names. You're not going to get the best kids out of high school or college because you're a big name company. That's one thing I admire so much about Adobe. They aren't just waiting for the kids to come to them. They are going to the kids. They were just named the #1 company in the US for college graduates. And beyond that, they're bringing our Gen Z kids in, studying them, having them be influencers. This Adobe Max conference is coming up. That's one of the top creativity conferences in the world. There'll be 12,000 people, and we'll have 8 Gen Z social insiders for Adobe that they're bringing in and giving them inside access and saying, tell us what you think. What's it look like from the eyes of a teen today, so that they can develop products and approaches to the marketplace that's going to matter to these kids as well.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think as employers, I went through challenges with being an entrepreneur for all my life, where one of the last companies that I worked for as an employee, they had to make me an entrepreneur, and they had to take a different sort of stance with me. And they made me an entrepreneur and because I wanted to contribute to the company, because I wanted to do things. And I got carte blanche from the CEO to be able to wander around the company and make improvements in different scales and things that we were doing, and some of the functions of the business and how things are working from front to back. And I imagine more companies are going to have to approach these Gen Zers with the same sort of thing. They're going to have to realize and tap into their entrepreneurial drives and potentials. I was reading on your website here that 70% of them earn their own money. And so they're very concerned probably how they spend it as well. But they're earning their own money at this point. They're figuring out different ways they can use their logic and their intelligence and technology to turn it into dollars. And so definitely the entrepreneurial spirit is there. And if you're a big corporation like IBM, you're going to have to figure out how to utilize these guys and not disenfranchise them, and be able to empower them to make your company better.
Well, let's go back to Keaton. Keaton, his love, his passion is in the visual arts and creating photographs and video and so on. But he has to make money too, and he works, it's saving money to go to college and so on. And so he's very, very interested in business. I mean, he wanted to do business development for us, over and above the visual arts. And when he went to that juice bar, he was already working there, and he had a job that he was being paid for, but he knew he could make them more relevant to more people, especially young people, if they were on Instagram. So he said, let me show you, I can create these videos for you, and you can market this way, and your business will be better as a result of it. Now that's great entrepreneurial and creativity. The innovation is terrific, and the boldness, the courage.
And I love that too. I mean, they're just not being the employees that phone it in. Millennials. And I like to give rib to my millennials. But they're just not phoning it in. They're contributing. I had the same problem when I worked for companies, where I was always kind of like, I can see how I could fix that over there. Can I fix that? Like, no, you have to stay in your lane and do your job and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, but I could really make a difference over there if I could fix that one thing. And so it's great that they have the ability to make contributions like that. And employers are going to have to embrace that and give them some leeway and give them some rope to be able to make contributions to their business. And, I've seen that, of course, in my journey with my employees over the years, where I have to learn to sometimes step back, kind of like kids, and you gotta give them some leeway so they can run. And a lot of times what they create is something pretty amazing and something that's out of your mind, your little box that you've built of how things should be. And they go, hey, here's a better way to do this, and build a better widget.
Yeah, and just remember, there are many, many more of them. They're going to be the most diverse population in history. And and obviously they're going to be the majority population in the not too distant future. Gen Z will be the first in the United States, first generation in the United States, not to be a majority white. They're going to be, diverse from every way, shape, and form, and they like that. And for brands, they need to understand that not only do they accept that in their own lives, but they expect you, Mr. or Ms. Brand, to be diverse as well, to be accepting of all different kinds of people and ways of thinking, etc. Whether it's in, who they let use what dressing rooms in the mall retail shop, based on gender, to things like Vodafone in Europe. They created a whole new product just for people 25 and under because they use phones in a different way. And so they created a billing and business model that is not based just on data, but literally on streaming and that broadband application, because they use phones in a very different way than we did. So,
and in voting block too. I mean, the laws they're looking to enact, the things they're looking to do. The names I was looking for earlier, Ayanna Pressley, she ousted a 10-term Massachusetts Democrat. This is just a few days ago. And she'll be, I think, one of the first African Americans who served in that Massachusetts Democrat position. The other one was Alexandria Cortez, who upset a Bronx. I can't remember how many terms he served out, but you can see this thing where this generation is starting to become a part of the voting bloc, and it sounds like they're going to be very proactive, especially what we're seeing with Parkland. In their getting the kids to register, getting kids to vote, getting kids to care and shape. It seems like there's a real forward thinking of what they want to shape their future of, and they're kind of that generation. What was the movie The Network, where we're sick of it, we're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to get up and do something about it. And so it's really interesting to me. I mean, I've really kind of been shocked at some of these things where there's this overturn and clearly a diverse generation being put more into politics for us. And I'm sure they're going to demand things like changes to their college setups and financing and that. I know that's an important issue for them, how their schooling is going and what protections they have in their schooling. And it just sounds like they're just a more entrepreneurial, more outgoing, more the authentic aspect of it is another thing that interests me. One of the things we learned in social media very early on was authenticity was a big part of it, and being authentic. My brand has a lot of authenticism to it. I've shared a lot of different ups and downs and life challenges and things, and in doing so, I've kind of found an interesting dichotomy that when you share stuff like that, it becomes a groupthink where everyone gets a chance to go through stuff, and a lot of these kids are used to doing that. They're used to sharing. They're used to sharing their experiences,
sharing everything.
And like you say, They can sniff out BS.
Well, and think about this too. When Obama was running for the presidency, a lot of experts literally credited their digital expertise and outreach with winning him the presidency. Republicans were way behind from the Democrats in terms of their digital outreach. And that was back then. That was how many years ago? Now we've got an even more digital society where the average Gen Z person is on a screen of some sort for as many as 10 hours a day. Wow. 90% own smartphones. They live by their smartphones. So if politicians want to appeal to these young and future voters, and they know they need them, they're going to have to up their game when it comes to technology as well, because in the United States, the average 2-year-old has a digital footprint. And a lot of them as early as 6 months old or 6 months before they're born, because their parents share the sonogram on Facebook to show the grandparents. So they've got this digital footprint, and And my granddaughter's 1.5 years old, and she can literally go to the game that she wants on her mother's phone, and she can't even talk more than probably 15 words that are understandable, but she can maneuver through that smartphone. So the reality is politicians need to up their game in terms of technology, know where to find these kids, how to engage with them, what's going to engage with them, and then they'll have a chance of getting their ideas across. And the same goes for brands. You can't just put up a billboard anymore, or send out a flyer or a catalog and expect that you're going to capture that generation. You're going to have to find more creative ways. Innovation and creativity are at the forefront for this population because they're used to experiences. This is really the experience economy, and they are at the forefront of that.
So if I'm a brand, if I'm a marketer, if I'm a corporation, and of course I'm listening to the podcast right now, what's the best way to approach you and be able to engage and learn more about how to deal with Gen Z and really utilize the platform you built?
Well, if they want to get to Gen Z, Instagram is critical. A Snapchat is okay. It's good. Maybe second, but Instagram is definitely the number one. Forget Facebook. They're not on Facebook. And it's not because their parents are on Facebook. It's because there's a whole population that are called no Facebookers. They've never been on Facebook. Yeah. It's never been relevant to them, and it's not going to be. And so the self-expression that Instagram allows them really makes a huge difference. So you've got to be there. But if a brand really wants to know about Gen Z, follow us on WeRGenZ. See our video vignettes every month of kids talking about important topics. Contact us at askus@WeRGenZ.com about how we can help you. We create brand advisory boards of teens for businesses where they can tap into them and ask them what's going to be, say you're a financial institution, well, what is it going to take? What kind of product is going to be relevant to you today and tomorrow? Would you use this product? Would you come to us or stay away from us, etc. All those kinds of things. We have actual teams you can ask. If you're a media person, instead of writing an article and talking to experts like me, quote unquote, you literally can have access to dozens and dozens of kids that you can ask directly and get an authentic, real voice that's diverse about that generation.
So when they go to your website and they contact you, they can work with you as a consultant, as a speaker, and you can form using this think tank that you built of up to 1,000 of these young people for focus groups, different brand research they can take and do. I imagine white papers, research results. You're compiling all this data so that brands can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we did. The Panthers, we were really lucky. The Carolina Panthers are very forward thinking, and their social and digital media is one of the best in the league. And the league is pretty, is real conservative when it comes to an awful lot of things. And, but the woman who heads up that area used to work for me. And I saw an article in Ad Age that said, Gen Z punts on the NFL. And I sent it to her and I said, Amy, if your club really wants to understand Gen Z and how to make it relevant in our community, let us do a focus group for you. And that is exactly what we did. And the insight, she says, every single day she shares an insight from that focus group and from the surveys that we did in advance of 699 teens on where they spend their time in terms of entertainment versus sports and what influences them and that kind of thing. So, there's a wealth of really, really valuable information about this generation of consumers and leaders and employees that brands need to tap into, and we can hand them to them on a silver platter.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are compiling quite the database and information. And then also, if I'm a Gen Zer, or maybe I'm a parent of a Gen Z, or listen to the podcast right now, it looks like you guys have a place on your website where they can apply for internships. There's Gen Z surveys, sound bites, think tank. There's a media here, access, and a blog for all sorts of different data you have. So people can sign up if they're a Gen Zer on your website to be part of this think tank.
Absolutely. We're looking for kids who want to have their voices amplified, want to be on the forefront of explaining in the coolest ways, what their generation is all about. So we're looking for kids all over the United States and ultimately the world. Again, we started in Charlotte, but we're now in 5 different states, and we want to expand even beyond that and have a wide range of diverse kids that really represent the population of Gen Z. And so if you're creative, if you want to speak out, if you're a writer, if you're into social media, if we've got a young woman who's at Spelman University. Her name is Lydia, and Lydia is in Girls Who Invest Online. So her focus is all about economics and finances for Gen Z. And she just wrote a wonderful blog post on the environment and how you can be environmentally sensitive and be sustainable and still save money at the same time. A wonderful blog post. So every week we put up a new blog from any of our teen think tanks. We're going to have, we're looking right now for someone to be a movie blogger and someone critique and someone to be a book reviewer from Gen Z. So if you've got talents and you want to speak out on anything that is your passion, that's relevant, fashion, music, politics, social justice, whatever it is, come to us. We're looking for the best of the best, and you can live anywhere and be a part of this collaboration of really smart and talented young people.
Yeah, it's just amazing what they can do. So they can go to your website. I'm looking at the internships page, and they can apply and email in to apply for being an intern with your website and what you're doing. They can get a membership on the What's Hot, What's Not panel to help identify growing and diminishing trends. They can apply for, looks like you're doing content marketing, which I'm sure they're good at now, graphic design, video production, social media strategy management, blogging, podcasting, performing arts, website management, social media influencers, digital advertising, data analytics, all these different things, business developments, public speaking, and media interviews. That was one of the things that impressed me about the Parkland kids, their eloquence and ability to speak really well at their age. I was very, I did not have that ability when I was their age. So just watching them, I was just like, wow, they've got it together.
What somebody said to me, yeah, but they were theater students, and there was a teacher guiding them. Well, for 30 years, I've been coaching celebrities and executives on dealing with the media. It's not natural for anybody to have lights shining in their eyes and a microphone stuffed in their face and have to be articulate, even about something they know inside out. So there are skills there that anybody can learn to speak and to deal with the media. And so in the next 2 weeks, we're actually going to have a workshop for dozens and dozens of our kids. And then we're going to put it online in a webinar form on how to become a social media influencer and what that means to use it responsibly and how to deal with the media. Because one of the things we want to do is we want to make our kids available to, whether it's the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, a blogger, anybody, business line, if they want to write about or do a story about Gen Z, talk to kids. We can give you kids. We can give you 30 kids. We can give you 100 kids. We can give you 1,000 kids, real teens who can tell you what's really going on those issues. And so we want to make sure that our kids are as articulate as possible and they can truly amplify their own voices. And that's what we're doing.
In fact, I'm getting a text message from my nephew who's about, I think, 17 going on 18. I'm going to refer him to guys' site. And if you're out there listening, you have brands, get in touch with Kathleen on her website or send her an email. Also, if you have kids, like I just said, I've got my nephew contacting me, and I think I'm going to refer him to you and contribute them, because I think the other great thing that you're doing as a compilation of all this, Kathleen, is you're going to give these kids a lot of resources that are in your think tank and really help develop them. I mean, just reading this internship page is pretty amazing to me, because I'm so jealous that I wish I could go back to because I was very lucky that I got into social media very early on, and did what I did with it, and became a leader in it. But I'm still jealous because it's much harder for my archaic old brain to adopt to these things. These kids are much faster too, and they're certainly starting to beat me out when it comes to influence, power, and that's fine. That's probably the way it's supposed to be. But
nobody should underestimate them. That's for sure. Because I truly, I'm really charged up. I'm not depressed about the future when everybody starts, woe is me. I look at these young people and I think, wow, they don't see anything getting in their way. And they're just going to go forward, and they're going to create the world that they want to live in. And I think that's super, super exciting.
Yeah, especially from the entrepreneurial. I really love seeing a generation that's entrepreneurial, because that's how I grew up. I've owned my own company since 18. And to me, being an entrepreneur has really made it so that I've been more self-actualized, I think, as a person. At least that's my opinion. And it's really made me more responsible. It's made me understand the world a whole lot more, learn all sorts of different talents and different projects that I've had to learn over the years. And it's challenged me as a person probably more than anything else. And seeing these kids come through that, and a generation of children that aren't slacking and going, hey, we're just going to phone it in, especially at our works. It's going to be interesting what they do, because we saw what the millennials did with technology and being able to transpose the phones and the iPads and turn that into these new things that we have. We had 10 years ago we didn't have Uber, and we didn't have Tesla, we didn't have autonomous cars, and all this sort of different things we're doing. And all those things have come from those generations demanding that, hey, we want technology and we want it our way, and we don't want it your way, and we're going to make it our way, and that's just going to be it.
Yeah, so you take it to a whole other level. Yeah. And if you ask anybody in high school or even in college, most of them will say school is not preparing us for the real world that we have to live in, especially when you anticipate that the jobs of today won't even exist, in a few years, that the vast majority of them will not even be viable at all. And so if like you learn shop and that job doesn't exist anymore, then what are you ready for? That's why I'm really excited about, there's a trend in education, CTE, and it's career technical education. And some people think of it as the old vocational training, but it has, at Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, they have biomedical engineering, they have robotics. When you graduate from the Charlotte Mecklenburg CTE pathway, if you're in visual arts, you can be certified in every single one of the major Adobe programs before you even graduate from high school. So you can actually walk out and be ready for a job, instead of as a small business owner for 30 years, I figure I've got to work on somebody for 6 to 9 months before they're even breaking even for me, much less making money for me, because you have to teach them how to work. Well, these kids are ready, willing, and able, and looking for opportunities outside of the traditional educational system to prepare themselves for a different kind of world. And school systems like Charlotte Mecklenburg schools and the CTE program are doing everything they can to create different kinds of experiences, internships and mentorships and so on, for these kids, to prepare them for the jobs, for the companies around them, but also for companies anywhere in the world, and jobs that don't even exist.
All right. So if you are listening out there to the podcast today, we certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. And your brand or company, please contact Kathleen so that you can take and find out more about how to utilize this powerful think tank database that she's building and wealth of information. If you know of young Gen Z people, have them contact her website so they can apply for internships and put those kids to work so you can get them out of the house at 18.
Absolutely. And we can create a better world together.
There you go. So give us your plugs once again, Kathleen.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Kathleen Hessert and at GenZ.com. We're at WeRGenZ.com website, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on Spotify, on YouTube, and just send us an email if you want. Ask us at WeRGenZ.com or DM me on Twitter. You can find me there anytime.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kathleen, for being on the show. We certainly appreciate you. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys, of course, tuning in as well and being here. Please refer the show to your friends, neighbors, relatives, dogs, cats. Tell everybody about the show. Getting them signed up for it. We certainly appreciate it. Tell them to go to iTunes and Google Play where they can sign up for the show. They can also go to youtube.com, and you can as well if you haven't as yet. /Chris Voss. Hit that bell notification button so you get all the notifications of everything we're doing. You see all the great videos, of course, we do for the podcast, for the Chris Voss Show, for the reviews that we do of all the technology stuff and all the latest phones, speakers, gadgets, all that sort of good stuff that, of course, the Gen Z folks like too as well. They should go there. And also you can see the Siberian Husky puppy as well. So that's why I tune in when it comes down to it. So thanks to my audience for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.